Morning, everybody. Welcome to Friday. It's not Eddie today. He is otherwise engaged, so I'm afraid it's a Joe morning. I wondered whether you'd look at your hands this morning. If you look at your hands, you might notice that they've changed over the years. You might have got nail varnish on, you might have got rings on which symbolise a relationship. It might be that your hands are quite rough and that you've had a hard paper round, so to speak. Or it might be that your hands are really lovely and soft. Take a look at your hands. I'm going to read a lovely reflection that I came across. It's called Grandma's Hands, and it really spoke to me. So I hope you enjoy it. I'll read it, but I'll also put an image on the screen of just a number of hands. But please take a look at yours and just see where the Lord leads you as you hear these words. Grandma's hands. Grandma, some 90 plus years, sat feebly on their patio bench. She didn't move, she just sat with her head down, staring at her hands. When I sat down beside her, she didn't acknowledge my presence, and the longer I sat, I wondered if she was okay. Finally, not really wanting to disturb her, but wanting to check on her at the same time, I asked her if she was okay, and she raised her head and looked at me and smiled. "I'm fine. Thank you for asking," she said. Her voice was clear and very strong. "I didn't mean to disturb you, Grandma, but you were just sitting there looking at your hands. I just wanted to check that everything was all right." And she said, "Have you ever looked at your hands? Really looked at your hands?" I opened my hands and stared down at them. I turned them over, palms up, then palms down. No, I don't suppose I really have looked at my hands. I didn't really know what point she was trying to make. And then she smiled and she related this story. Stop and think for a moment about the hands that you have, how they've served you well throughout the years. These hands may be a bit wrinkled, maybe a bit weak, maybe a bit sore, but they've been tools, and they are the tools that I used all of my life to reach out and to grab and embrace life. They braced and caught my fall when I was a toddler. They put food in my mouth and clothes on my back. As a child, my mother taught me to fold them in prayer. They tied my shoelaces and they pulled on my boots. They held my husband and wiped my tears when he went off to war. They have been dirty, scraped, raw, swollen and bent. They were uneasy and clumsy when I tried to hold my newborn baby. Decorated with my wedding band, they showed the world that I was married and loved somebody special. They wrote my letters to him and trembled and shook when I buried my mum and dad and my spouse. They have held my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. They've consoled neighbours and shook in fists of anger when I didn't understand. They've covered my face. They have combed my hair. They've washed and cleansed the rest of me. They've been sticky and wet and bent and broken and dried and raw. And to this day, when not much of anything else of me works very well, These hands hold me up, lay me down, and continue to fold in prayer. These hands are the marks of where I've been and the ruggedness of life. But more importantly, it will be these hands that God will reach out and take when he leads me home. And with my hands, he will lift me to his side, and there I will use these hands to touch the face of Jesus. Wow. I will never look at my hands the same again, I said to Grandma. I remember Grandma's hands to this day. When my hands are hurt or sore, or when I stroke the face of my children, I think of my grandma. And I know she's been stroked and caressed and held and loved. And her hands are held by the hands of God. And I too want to touch the face of God and feel his hands upon my face. So a story and a reflection about hands. And it's true, isn't it, in so many ways. Our hands have held, our hands have cradled, our hands have picked things up, they've wiped tears. Our hands have held other hands. Our hands have clapped and cleaned. Our fingers have pointed the way. Our hands are important, aren't they? What we do with them, what we remember. And our hands one day will be held as God leads us into his kingdom. So may you look at your hands today. Think of all the people that you've held with them. And remember that God is holding you tight. So take care, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.